Fatal error there, nearly forgot to put the microphone on. Welcome to all our members of the public here today and to those people online that have come in. This is the Cabinet meeting of Thursday the 9th of February at 5 o'clock. And just to confirm, item 1 on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting. Is everyone okay with those minutes of the previous meeting? Councillor Jones-Evans?
Yeah, I'll propose them, Chair.
Okay, is there a seconder? Councillor Phil Jordan? Just to remind you, obviously, all to use your microphone and switch yours off, Councillor Jones-Evans. Thank you. Okay, are there any declarations of interest? Item number 2, please. Councillor Jones-Evans.
Yes, sorry, Leader. On the item 7, for the IW Festival, I'm going to hand that over to you, given that my address is next to the festival site. So, just for clarity.
Councillor Karen Lucioni.
Just for the purposes of transparency, I've actually bought tickets to the festival, but see, I will vote on the information in front of me.
Anyone else? Councillor Jarman.
Given the last remark, I should say that I've been donated tickets to the Isle of Wight Festival that I've passed on to various charities to use in their fundraising.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jones-Evans, could you switch your microphone off again, please? Sorry, I forgot to sign the minutes. Okay, so item number 3 on the agenda is public question time. We do have a number that we have received written questions. I'm not sure, but I'm rather hoping that Carol Jones is online. She's asked me to read out this question. The question, Carol, if you can bear with us, will be answered very quickly as item number 6 on the agenda. So it should only be a few minutes' time. So she has asked me to read the question out. What provision will be made for residents of this St Catherine Street already struggling to park in surrounding areas when residents nearby car parks are congested during summer months due to the influx of visitors? Particularly, how can anybody disabled or elderly without an able-bodied driver to drop them off, retain use of the necessary vital vehicle when they would be unable to safely return to their homes after struggling to find somewhere to park? Please note, any suggestion of retaining disabled bays only in this street is really not feasible. Countless visitors, non-residents without blue badges already park for extended periods of time within or over the existing courtesy bays on the street, which suggests they would have no hesitation in disregarding those individuals who live nearby and who are physically disadvantaged. They will park their vehicles there, causing distress and possibly discord, confrontation with those needing a disabled bay. As I say, Carol, I do hope that you will wait a few minutes so that we can get to the item on the agenda, which is to talk about the TROs for Ventnor, when we will give you a response. Thank you. So we have another written question. I'm going to read these 2 questions out. I don't know whether Christopher Messer's here. No. Gallery. Okay, so this is about the Stroke Association. The proposed cut to the stroke support will have disproportionate impact on stroke survivors who often have new and complex disabilities. What assessment has been made of the impact of the proposed withdrawal of stroke specialist support on people with disabilities? So that's the first question. The second question is from Susie and John Gosling. Are you here? No. Okay, this is about the Stroke Association again, which is why I'm putting them together, and then Councillor Carlove will come back with a response. As a result of the proposed cut to the stroke support, stroke survivors will not get specialist support of their new complex disabilities. What assessment has been made of the impact on other adult social care service budgets and resources due to the increased demand? Councillor Love, do you want to respond to those? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. There's no doubt about it that this has been this is a very difficult time for our council in terms of funding right across the board. It's probably been one of the most difficult decisions that I think I've ever been involved in as an individual in many years, trying to look at how we balance the books and provide the services. And unfortunately, we kind of had to rank those services in a way which provides the most urgent need to those people who are trapped at home in their own beds, in their own homes, who need domiciliary care and who need care in care homes. But to respond to the first question specifically, is that a full equalities impact assessment has been undertaken, and my officers have been previously in communication with the Stroke Association. So we do have a dialogue which is ongoing at this time with them. We realise how difficult the situation is, but that is our response to the first question. Second question, if you will forgive my stuttering, because we're not all fluent in reading, unfortunately. The stroke. So my response to the second question: the stroke survivors will continue to receive specialist clinical support. The clinical needs of those affected by stroke are the responsibility of the NHS Trust, and they will continue to meet these needs. Our initial assessment indicates that there is likely to be limited impact on the adult social care service as stroke survivors are usually already supported by those other services. We have made an approach to the integrated care system to consider alternative funding streams, and we are awaiting their response. So what we're saying is that we have made a considered response. We have discussed it at great length as a cabinet, and it's not been an easy decision for any of us in where we're currently at. And sadly, we have a lot less money this year than has been given previously, and because of the impacts of a devastating war and of the millions of pounds which we have accumulated as a result of the inflationary impacts, has put us in a position where, you know, we cannot support everything we wanted to do. This is 13 years of negative budget from government. Every year we have to lose money. This year, before all of the things that came forward to us, we had to lose £3 million. My cut of that £3 million is 1.2 million. Then on top of that, my colleagues sat round here have been quite gracious, really, in that I have transported my £7.6 million of what it would cost me to keep the services exactly where they are this year. They have taken the huge burden. They've taken 7.1 million of that off me, but that still leaves me with 600,000. So the reality is, and it's very clear out there, is that in order to balance the books this year, we're actually being impacted as a council. We are regretfully going to be losing some staff because we need to do that. We need to look at how we manage that, and we can't support everything. And this is very clearly been a very long, it's been a very good relationship with the stroke support service over 13 years. And, you know, we did engage with them, and now we are where we are. I believe that Councillor Jarman might wish to add a few words to that.
Thank you, Councillor, through the chair. Yes, we have of late taken a look at the organisation to see what their means are and other avenues that they have to support the Isle of Wight. We were able to look at their last accounts and to note that their Chief Executive Officer has a salary of £148,000. Their number of executive directors has grown, so they have 5 at the moment, with an average base salary of £100,000 each. As an organisation, They've received a great deal of support from the island. We have supported them from 2009, I believe. If that were to be roughly the same as we've done in the last few years, and I've been able to check all the way back, that would come to an accumulative contribution from the Isle of Wight Council of £1 million or thereabouts. So our support for them has been long-standing and generous, notwithstanding the fact that as an organisation, they are remarkably wealthy. We took a look at their performance last year, and we noted that last year they had an income of £41.2 million with a surplus of £9.6 million. They received legacies of £19.3 million. And at the end of that declaration within their accounts, declared a free reserve of £12.6 million. Those are very substantial incomes and reserves. Now we know that on the island, they receive legacies and donations from a wide variety of sources. And we have asked for them a breakdown of those donations, legacies, contributions, and other fundraising activities they do on the island over the last 3 years, together with their expenditure over the last 3 years, for how much of that money has actually been returned to the island. We don't know how much of that has come back to the island and how much of it has actually been taken into the mainland pool, but it would seem that their opportunity to spend that at the size of legacies likely to have been donated on the island and other fundraising would seem to be somewhat limited. Notwithstanding that, we are awaiting that information from them before we make any final determination on this. And I know that a number of different parts of the organisation are involved in that research.
Thank you, Councillor Jarman. So we have no more written questions. We can take oral questions, but to get a proper and thorough answer, if anyone does want to ask any questions, we may not be able to give them to you. We may have to give them to you in writing. Simon, do we have a list of the members in the gallery? No questions have been registered. Okay, thank you. Is there? Oh, right. Okay. St. Catherine Street. Yeah, I don't know whether you were here at the start. We're gonna give you a real detailed thing in about, I don't know, 5 minutes. Are you all right with that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So moving. I've got no announcements to make, so we move on to item 5A, which is the report of the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Education and Lifelong Skills.
Thank you, Leader. This paper coming before Cabinet tonight is a statutory requirement that comes every year. The Isle of Wight Council, just to put in context, are the admission authority for all community and voluntary controlled schools on the Isle of Wight. And we are responsible for determining the admission arrangements for these schools. All schools, schools other than the ones that we are responsible for, who are their own admission authorities, have to determine their school admission arrangements. It all has to be done. This is for the year 24-25 by the 28th of February 2023. As you will note from the paper, there are 4 primary schools where we are changing the published admission numbers for the academic year 24-25. We know from the statistics coming through that the numbers of children, the numbers of births are actually falling. So we do need to put these measures in place. But I would like to stress that this is separate. This is an annual requirement and is separate from the school's place planning paper, which is coming to Cabinet on the 8th of June. So the 4 schools, Barton Primary, we are reducing from 45 to 30, Broadley Primary from 45 to 30, Harrisbrook Church of England Primary from 60 to 45, and Gods Hill Primary from 27 to 20. I'm happy to take questions on that, Leader.
Are there any questions? No, thank you. Can we move to the recommendation, please?
The recommendation which I move is that Cabinet approves the 2024-2025 admissions arrangements, and I look for a seconder. Thank you, Leader.
Seconder, Councillor Karen Lichoni, thank you. All those in favour, please vote. Thank you, that's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item number 6A, so I hope Carol Jones and to all our residents from Ventnor up there are ready to listen to this next item, which is item 6A, the Isle of Wight Council Various Streets Ventnor Traffic Regulation Order. Councillor Phil Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. So this is another round. We've had them for a number of meetings for TROs across the island. That's because we are dealing with the areas divided into 6 geographical areas, and we are dealing with them in turn and bringing forward TROs for each area over a period and reviewing them every 2 years. That's the intention anyway. Just to reiterate, maybe I should say this every time they come up, but I will do tonight, that these are requests in the first place that date back almost 10 years, and they are requests from members of the public, from councillors, from ward councillors, from town and parish councils, and businesses and residents wanting some change to the parking regulations in a particular area. That's the background and the basis of why we are bringing forward the TROs that we are bringing forward. So we're now now dealing with Ventnor tonight, and I'd like to say straight away that one of the things that we do, we've done public consultations. That's a requirement, and we've done that. And there are some on Appendix 3, page 59, some results of that. In addition to that, for particularly for St Catherine Street, I've had a petition of over 600 names, and I'd like to thank every person, every resident who took the time and trouble to sign that petition. It's not a wasted signature. It is taken into account. We've taken it into account. I've taken it into account, and we're going to take it into account tonight as a cabinet. And we are listening very, very carefully to what our communities and our residents need, Chair. And that has brought us to a position which I hope answers the question and perhaps the oral question that was coming along. I'm happy to provide a written reply after, but you will see that what we propose will probably answer the question anyway. So, Chair, I'm going to propose that we accept option 3 on page 41, which is to approve the proposed restrictions in Ventnor with amendments. And that the amendment is to abandon the proposals in some locations and to implement the rest of the restrictions. Chair, I've provided with you a piece of paper for all of you, and I'll read it to you, that I'm asking that we agree to option 3 with these amendments. Amendment 1, we will abandon proposals for Scheme 2, St Catherine Street, Ventnor, and not proceed with any TRO for this road. Item 2 is that Scheme 1, Albert Street, Ventnor, be deferred to a later date pending further detailed investigation and research on the proposal. And the third amendment is that Scheme 4 in Park Avenue, Ventnor, also be deferred until a later date pending further detailed investigation and research on the proposal. Chair, I'm proposing that, and like a seconder, I'm happy to take questions.
I think everyone wanted to second you on that one because we're all in agreement. Councillor Paul Fuller seconded that item. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this? I will just say, Councillor Jordan, thank you. I know when it came to the TROs and cows, as a local member, I fought for about 8 years on one of the issues. And again, you supported me as the local member because you knew that I understood the area much better than maybe one resident that wanted it for their own good. So, so thank you for that. Councillor Paul Fuller.
Thank you, Chairman. And I think this is one of the issues that we have with TROs. Sometimes you'll get maybe a handful, sometimes one resident just asking for a TRO to be put in, but they don't see the bigger picture. They think, well, we need to have access to our front driveway or whatever. And we find ourselves in a situation where it does impact adversely upon residents trying to park in their road or in joining roads. I think what is important to emphasise is that local residents, particularly from St Catherine Street, spoke and we have listened to them. And I think that is important. I think there's the councils generally have a really bad reputation for not listening. And I think we have listened to certainly the residents in St Catherine Street. And I'm hoping that the deferral will also allow more engagement with the residents in the other two roads that we're looking at. So I thank Councillor Jordan for his work on this, and thank you for the questions that have come from members of the public.
Yeah, thank you. So to be clear, St Catherine's will not go ahead, just to make it really clear. You know, Councillor Jordan did receive that, and he was absolutely adamant that he would, you know, we had offers a recommendation, but we've gone against that as a group. We have deferred Albert and Park Avenue, if you want to let residents know about that. I hope that gives you some pieces. Oh, some peace, Councillor Peace. Anyway, we need to vote on that, please. If there's no further questions, could we please vote on those amendments to the option 3, please? All those in favour? That's unanimous. So that is put through. Thank you all very much for attending this evening. Thank you. You can go or you can stay. Hopefully we won't be too long. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next item, which is 7A, which is the Isle of Wight Festival terms of a new land hire agreement. Okay, so Councillor Jones Evans has had to leave because she gave up pecuniary interest. Okay, so the paper is there before you. I don't know really what you would, whether you would like me to say any more, but the report does propose, thanks Gary, propose a 5-year land hire agreement with the Isle of Wight Festival. This is sort of fairly standard so that they can plan ahead. The original 10-year agreement ended in 2019, and we've had temporary ones which were given to us literally, you know, a week before the festival, 2 weeks before. It was not a good way to operate. We did get independent people to come in to price up. You add everything together and we've more or less got exactly what the independent people had said. What is really exciting is the agreement to a tariff-based green fund to support our island biosphere projects. What is also really good is, you know, this will save, you know, 6 to 8 members and officers time having to keep going through this every year, going through all these negotiations. It will save us time and money. It is on the proviso that we do make sure that the traffic is suitable for the residents, and particularly Halbury Lane, because I know that is an issue. We have spoke to the local member, which is Councillor Gary Price. Thank you. I think his name was Matthew Price. Who's Gary Price? I don't know. Gary Peace Price. Too many P's. Anyway, to Matt Price, and he is supportive of it. So if there's no questions, are there questions? Oh, Councillor Bacon.
Well, Leader, I was going to say I'm very happy to second this report as well, but you did mention briefly, but I would like to really draw attention to paragraph 18 in the report, which talks about initially Live Nation, the organisers, looking to reduce the carbon footprint of this event, but leading on from that, the agreement that's set out there, well, negotiation to come, but the agreement to work to establish a potential green fund There's talk there of it being a tariff, a levy, maybe 50p a pound on a ticket price, a car parking ticket, something like that. But that is, I think, a valuable and exciting potential for the island and the festival. As you say, that could go to support many of our Mission Zero or Biosphere projects that will be coming forward. And I'd like to think it will be a major selling point of the festival. It is already an iconic event in an iconic location. And if this could start a move to it becoming perhaps the greenest festival in the country, perhaps even more widely internationally, I would have thought that would make it and the island an even more attractive location and event for people. So I just wanted to draw attention to that because I think it is important and say I'm very happy to second the paper.
Thank you for seconding. Councillor Fuller, did you wish to say anything?
Thank you. I'd like to also thank you for this, Leader, because I know once we took office, the strength, the lengths that you went to make sure that we actually had an agreement for a longer term period for the festival and the people that enjoy the festival and how iconic the festival is for the island. So I'd like to thank you, Leader, for the work that you've done. Again, I'm very heartened by the fact that, you know, the amount of money that we have actually agreed with the promoters has been quite, it has given the island quite a good deal. Not as good as some would like, but you know, we have negotiated a good deal, and thanks to the officers for doing that, because I think that is laudable. So I'm in full support of the report and support other members doing the same.
Councillor Ian Stevens.
Well, here he comes. I don't like a 5-year deal at the base costs that we've got at the moment. The costings that we're working to this year are the ones that were given to us last year. As we all know, prices have gone up. And I note that over a 5-year deal, I'm pleased that if you're going to go for a 5-year deal, that you've got the RPI built in there. But coming from the base where we are, I think when we're feeling the pinch, when the Isle of Wight Council is making such drastic decisions, we should be looking at what we're doing and actually saying, okay, perhaps the Isle of Wight Festival could give us a little bit more, to assist us through the hard times that we're having. I'm going to leave it at that, Chair, but I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't go harder for a cost base, and I don't like the 5-year deal. Might save us resource time, but it certainly doesn't safeguard the financial viability of this area for our events, shall we say.
Thank you. Councillor Karen
Thank you very much indeed, Leader.
Before I ask a question, I just want to draw attention to actually we're receiving some licensing fees, etc. with this contract. So I want to thank all the staff who are busy this time of year organising all of that. So well done to them. But the bond that we hold, are we keeping that for 5 years?
Chris Ashman will have to answer that one.
We make some interest on it.
Yes.
That's my next point.
Yes, we would keep the whole of the bond for the period of the landowner agreement.
See, we are making a bit more.
Okay, Councillor Phil Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Just whilst not directly related to the land hire agreement, I did raise some concerns under my portfolio of transport about the traffic management scheme that has been problematic. But I'm happy to say that I've received assurances and comfort that those won't be repeated. And on that basis, I'm happy to support it.
Okay, so we're going with option 1. We will be changing the wording just slightly from the original option, and that is that the council agrees. So it's option 37.1, page 72, and the only thing we will be is removing cabinet member for levelling up and regeneration and business to the leader, because of course Councillor Jones-Evans has an interest. So the council agrees to the terms of the new 5-year land hire agreement with the Isle of Wight Festival as set out in paragraph 20, and instructs the Director of Regeneration in relation with the leader to conclude the detailed arrangements to the agreement, including provision to terminate where necessary. And the recommendation of that is, well, is more or less the worded the same, to agree the terms set out in the report for a new 5-year agreement with the Isle of Wight Festival Ltd to stage the Isle of Wight Festival for the period 23-27 inclusive, and to instruct the Director of Regen in liaison with the leader to conclude the details of the agreement, including provision to terminate where necessary. I have to say, I went in very hard on this. Poor Chris Jarman, Chris Ashman and Ashley really did take a going over the coals, because I was meticulous on an awful lot of detail on this, because I wanted to make sure it was a better deal for the island than we've had a previous. So that's the recommendation. It's been seconded by Councillor Jonathan Bacon. All those in favour, please show. Okay, and against? One again. Thank you very much. Can someone bring in Councillor Jones-Evans? Okay, so we move on now next to the, oh gosh, there's a lot of stuff here for Councillor Jarman now. I can sit back. Item 8A, the QPMR report. Councillor Jarman.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, so 5 documents to present to you this evening. The first one, which we receive very regularly, is the quarterly report. This is broken down by portfolio, and this covers the period up to the end of December last year. You'll all have read it, and I'm not proposing to go through the copious amount of documentation you've got ahead of you, but I am aware that there are a number of colleagues who wanted to talk to their individual portfolios, including Councillor Jones-Evans, Councillor Fuller, and Councillor Lucioni, who's on the end there. So just those 3. If there are any other colleagues who'd like to talk to their individual bits, I'm sure they'll be able to put their hands up at the appropriate time. One thing I would like to do is just to point out the caveat which is expressed in this and many other budget documents going forwards, which relates to the financial stresses that we as an organisation need to deal with, and those give us a number of assumptions going forward which operate within a certain margin. So like anything which is budgeted or estimated, there's a margin of error which is likely to be involved in that. Over the last year, the number of encumbrances there have been on our assumption have been quite substantial, largely driven by the illegal invasion of Russia into the Ukraine and the commodity price rises and inflationary pressures from utilities that's brought, and the spiral that's ensued ever since. We've had to deal with that. We've also had to deal with the manifestations which have evolved from the national government in managing the national finances, and some of the outturns which have had a direct impact on the island, not least of all our financial settlement that we received at the end of December. So taking all of those into account, I think our performance during this quarter shows remarkable diligence and resilience to those pressures. And I thank all of my colleagues and all of the different departments of the council who've been involved in bringing this margin of success against that adversity forwards. So I think at this stage, I'll pass on to Councillor Jones-Evans, who wanted to talk specifically to her part of the document.
Thank you, Councillor Jarman, and thank you, Chair. Just to, I'm going to speak about 2 things. On page 116 was the number of one cards in issue. The measure that's really important is we look at the amount of one cards and the income just before COVID, when the service was bringing roughly £300,000 into the centre. So obviously closing during the lockdowns of COVID. So it's been catching up ever since. So we got to the end of December date there, but I just thought it'd be really helpful because I've got the figures hot off the press now that we're now, so we were 75% with membership compared to December 19. We're now up to over 78%. So that's really, really good. So we've actually put on since last year 783 memberships. So I think that's pretty good. So obviously going completely right direction there. So I thought you'd like to know that. And just really all the ongoing business and the key aspiration that you'll find that's really, really positive that we're delivering on our projects and keep moving forward with that. So particularly proud of the whole team. It takes a whole team to produce this amount of activity and success. So sort of my thanks really to everyone who's involved with that.
And to Councillor Fuller for his part.
Thank you. I think there has for some time, and anybody that deals with planning enforcement, whether you're a stakeholder, particularly from a stakeholder perspective, has known that the planning department has been very much up against it in recent times. One of the ways that planners managed to deal with some of the backlog was through agency staff, which is not ideal and is costly for the local authority. What we've seen in the last few months is that vacant posts have been filled. By filling those posts has enabled us to be much more robust. And, the future now for the planning department is a lot more positive now than it was 6 months ago, 12 months ago. So I'm very, very happy with the trajectory that the planning department is on, and hopefully things can get a lot better as time proceeds. Thank you.
And to Councillor Lucchioni, who's got some other remarks.
I just wanted to draw to, I talk about waste quite a lot, but I just want to draw back that we're 97.28, not landfilling now. So I just wanted to say thank you to all the residents that get involved in that. And I've got some more news at the end when we talk about the announcement. But there's 2,000 places left when the green waste thing opens on the 24th of February. So that's doing really well as a service as well. Thank you.
And just to see if there are any other colleagues who wanted to speak to their quarterly documents. Sir Bacon.
Thank you. I actually just wanted to pick up on a reference in my section of the report, page 121, to the Salix project, because it has, it seems, attracted some ill-informed, well, misinformed comment in the press from some quarters. So I just thought it might be an opportunity to clarify a few points about it. It's a project that was commenced under the previous administration, and I think 2020, allowing access to a government programme to support decarbonisation in public buildings. So of course that ties in, it did then, it does even more now with the council's policy targets. Of course, our decarbonisation target for the council estate for 2030. And it deals with the fact that very simply the council buildings, particularly the one we're sitting in something of a poor state, particularly in terms of the windows, heating, and so on. There seems to be a suggestion, it's a little difficult to see where it's come from, that why are we undertaking works on a building that's going to be knocked down? There's absolutely no suggestion or proposal it is going to be knocked down. In fact, we're talking about this building, it's really become the centre of council operations. There's been a lot of consolidation of the council property base in recent years, and this has really become the hub, the core of operation. And the idea that it's got a short life is entirely misplaced. Even if that view were to suddenly change tomorrow, I think it's beyond argument this property would still be needed for at least 5 years, if not longer. The Works and what is going ahead was interestingly all agreed by, I think, all councillors last year. It was not a disputed part of last year's budget. And it seems to have just become something for to have an easy political dig at. But bearing that in mind, I think it's worth saying that even if one looks at just at the next 5 years, if that miraculous change in stance were to come about, the works will affect a carbon reduction, emissions reduction for the council of 552 tonnes per year, namely 12% of the baseline carbon footprint the council has. And the works overall, because they are improving the quality of things like the heating, lighting, affect an annual saving in energy costs of £282,937 per year. So obviously an even more significant sum, well in excess of £1 million over a 5-year period. So, sorry if I'm talking a little out of turn, Leader, but I just thought it useful to just set that picture out, and perhaps the press are sitting there, they might just make a note of that for when things are next mentioned in articles, because the attacks that are appearing are based on the entirely false premise. This is a key part of the council estate. We look after our employees as a council. They need to carry on their business in suitable accommodation. And just as significantly as that, these are works, say, employing not match funding, but significant government funding that are allowing us to bring about significant savings in our energy costs. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Love.
Thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, I just wanted to just thank my teams, particularly within adult social care, for all of the work that they've done, because you know, the nature of the work that they do is subject sometimes to the level of funding and the non-sustainable funding that they receive from government. But I think it's really important to just acknowledge that that despite all of the pressures, they have performed incredibly well, in my view. Two things I'd like to pull out from public health is that, in fact, we're having greater rates of success around smoking cessation recently, and of course, alcohol recovery as well. There are small steps, but it shows that the investment that we've made into those services, particularly in the drug and alcohol strategies and initiatives, are beginning to show some, let's hope, sustained improvement.
Thank you. Would you like to move on? Oh, right, Councillor George.
Just one from me, Chair. The old chestnut floating bridge. Page 126, just to note that in spite of the narrative that we hear in many quarters, the floating bridge since last April is averaging 98.6, almost 99% of its scheduled working hours. It's working. The floating bridge is working. Please go and use it. Turn up. It'll be running, he said.
Thank you. If there are no further ones, I'll make the recommendation then.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Jarman. Just one thing I'd like to mention is the reduction in the waiting list for pension our officers to go out and inspect the disabilities facility grants, and the number of cases on the waiting list in up to January was 102. Through diligence and hard work, they've now got it down to 24 on the waiting list. And I think that's the lowest I've ever seen it come. So I just want to point that out. Due to hard work at this time of the year, they've done a good job. I won't go into empty properties or homelessness because, quite honestly, I could tell you that we've got at the moment on the register 2,424 on the housing register, 225 in temporary accommodation, and 224 families have been assisted with our homelessness prevention team. So we've done pretty well there. 6 families in BB, bed and breakfast, total of 12 children, and 20 rough sleepers. out there, but being supported. Keep it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll make the recommendation the Cabinet approves the performance and finance report for the quarter ended the 31st of December 22 and the priority report detailed out as set in the appendices 1 to 10 together with the Council's financial position set out in appendices 11 to 12 and look for a seconder.
Thank you. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next one, thank you. Discretionary rate relief.
I now move on to two relatively small papers here. The first one deals with the discretionary rate relief programme for 23-24. Many of you will be familiar with the process regarding business rates relief or non-domestic rates relief. There are a number of categories covered in here. One is the hospitality sector broadly and leisure, and the other one is the small business scheme. These papers have had considerable discussion and debate, and I know they've got broad support. I don't intend to discuss them in any detail unless anybody has any particular questions. Thank you. I'll move the recommendation, therefore, at this stage, which is a slight change to the wording of item 9, that the Cabinet recommend to full council, because it does need to go to full council for ratification, that it adopt the discretionary rate relief schemes as outlined in the autumn statement 22, and to ensure the reliefs are applied to eligible accounts for the financial year 23-24. The Cabinet delegate authority to be granted to the Cabinet member for strategic finance, transformational change and corporate resources to agree further legislative changes to the discretionary rates relief scheme. And look for a second. I'll second that, Chair.
Councillor Jones-Evans.
Just one thing, thank you, Council. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Drummond. Just to say that the rate relief is so important to keeping many businesses going, and we also know that we're in the 50th cycle of reviewing business rates. So I'd encourage anyone who, even if they have a rateable value and they get 100% relief at the moment, please do go and check what your new rateable value is going to be, because they're going up as well as down, as well as staying the same. So very quick. Check online, the government website, just look up business rates and you put your postcode in and it will come up.
I think it's an important thing to know that it's government done and not by us.
Yes, and the valuation, the actual valuation done by a separate office, nothing to do with us. We just are the collection agency, actually.
Okay, thank you. So that's been seconded and proposed and seconded. All those in favour of that one, please show. Yep, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next one.
Next one is 8C. Which is the discretionary rates relief policy for the heat network rates relief scheme. This involves the government 100% relief, which is available for eligible low carbon networks. The details as per the paper. We have sought to identify organisations on the island which may benefit from this. We have one in mind already. There's already been some engagement in conversation with them. I therefore move the recommendation for the Cabinet adoption.
That's seconded. Thank you, Councillor Phil Jordan. Seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next one, item 8D.
8D is the Council Tax Support Grant Scheme. This had some debate at the last full council meeting and has enjoyed substantial debate ever since. This particular one here covers a number of aspects to it. You'll see that there are recommendations at the bottom, which is that we adopt the Council Tax Support Scheme as per Appendix 1, and we deal with the £25 award, which is so designated.
Is that seconded? Councillor Phil Jordan. All those in favour, please show. Okay, that's unanimous, so that's carried. Councillor Garrett. Didn't see your hand go up there.
You were lightning quick there.
You need a flag.
I need a flag, yes. I just wanted to thank the Cabinet for honouring that pledge to take things up from 65% to 70%. Members will know that I've pushed this for many years, both opposing cuts in the first place and then pushing for restoration in the last couple of years. I'd remind Cabinet members and indeed all members that we made a pledge last year not just to move towards 70%, but of course to further increase it if possible thereafter. And I hope that this will show that there's a trend towards alleviating that strain on low-income working families over the next couple of years of this municipal cycle. But I just want to place on record my thanks for something which has been incredibly dear to my heart.
Okay, thank you very much. That's carried through. So the next thing is the council budget and council tax setting, item 8E.
This is very much the meat and potatoes of what we're discussing at the moment, which is the annual budget cycle. We've been working on this since the middle of October with some preparatory work in advance of that. It's been a long process. We'll all recall as a cabinet, the first version of the gap between income and expenditure that we were looking at for this year was in excess of 30 million. We've been able to deal with the receipt of the information from government progressively as it's come in, including the figures at the end of December and the beginning of January. We've looked across the whole of the organisation for where we can make cuts and savings to get closer and closer to a balanced budget. And I'm very pleased to say at the end of the day, we have reached, with some difficulty and a great deal of negotiation, a budget that has structural stability within it. I don't think there are many of us who thought a year ago that we would find ourselves in such a difficult and precarious position. And we are very mindful of the concerns which have been expressed by our 151 officer regarding fragility within this process and the assumptions which are made in the budget going forwards. They do require some organisational reflection. They do require a number of cuts to be made, and they do require us to take full advantage of every opportunity we have for revenue. Our direction by the 151 officer has been very acute and will no doubt sit in each of our minds for quite some time regarding the situation. It is of necessity a budget which has impacts across the organisation, and what we've chosen to do is to prioritise and to effectively ring fence and support two key priority areas which are both in their own statutory responsibilities of the council, namely adult social care and children's services. By protecting those two areas and meeting the inflationary pressures which they've faced, we necessarily have had to take the burden of the cuts on the discretionary services that the council provides. They therefore have a disproportionate impact on what they've done, and I'm aware that some of those have been rather taxing. I do thank all the people that have been involved in the process, and indeed this has been very much a cross-party discussion with the ungrouped and the other groups within the council to deal with the issues that they've progressively been raised. We have been very open with them and with the other committees of the council, the difficulties and challenges that we face, and indeed the fragility of the budget. And our 151 officer has spoken at length to them and to other committees on that topic. Going forwards, we will start this process again next October. I know that seems a strange thing to reflect on, but I find it necessary to point it out that between now and October, the budget makes a number of assumptions about savings, in particular our revenue, our grants, our council tax collection rate, and a very large number of other variables, all of which will have to be acutely monitored during that process. It also makes assumptions as regards pay and the organisational construct with which we remodel the council, and bringing forward those savings by October of 23. We also are mindful of the business analysis which has already taken place within White Care and Bereavement Services, and the impending review which is coming forward from Leisure Services. The one, of course, from White Care, which was agreed last year, towards the end in the fourth quarter, assuming that within 24 months they will themselves reach structural stability in their financing, and other departments within the organisation will need to do the same. So the monitoring of the performance will need to be very tight. We will need to be very mindful of all of our costs and generating the revenue which is forecast, and indeed the savings being brought forward, which have been obligated. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions on the budget at this time, knowing full well, of course, that this will be a substantial debate at the full council meeting very shortly.
Councillor Love, Councillor Jones Evans after.
Thank you, Chair. I'm voting for this budget out of necessity and survival of this council moving forward, because there are a lot of things in this that none of us, and we all know this around this table, would want to vote for. It's out of 13 years of negative budget setting from austerity, and it's quite some of it is abhorrent to us, and we know that. But if this council wants to continue to be in existence moving forward, then this is the only option now. And I do agree that next year is going to be incredibly difficult. We will try our very best to sort out white care and to try and move forward. But inevitably, that means that people will have to pay more. That's the reality of the service, because that's the nature of the service in terms of how it's been set up from previous administrations to try to be a balanced service, but it is running at a significant loss. But I recognise that without that service, we would have a lot more people who would be in care, and that would be actually costing us a great deal more financially. So we've got a very tough road ahead, as you've already said. And I vote with this because it's a necessity. Otherwise, I would find it very difficult to support.
Councillor Jones Evans, were you seconding, or did you want to come in and speak?
I'm kind of speaking.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
mind seconding though.
The second as well, right? Okay.
Yeah, the heavy heart. Just want to say, you know, we've been, as Councillor John said, we've been working on this for several months now, and I know it's given pretty much all of us at some point over this last few months sleepless nights and and a lot of anxiety. I mean, that's absolutely true, because we're having to, as you know, has been said, it's very unpalatable options being put forward. But you know, I used to come, I think, used to sit where Councillor Garrett is and come and speak to the previous leader of the council and ask where our money was, where the fair funding was, where our island deal was regularly. And we're not going to give up asking for that, because it's our due. And you know, last September, our chief executive and our leader was in Orkney and began those negotiations. And you know, you've got my full support of all of us to continue with that. And I think maybe because we're an island, we're naturally resilient and resourceful, because we've had to be as an island, island nation, but as an island, you just have to be. And I think that resilience and resourcefulness actually played sort of against us in a way, because the government go, well, okay, you're managing, you're doing all right, aren't you? You know, you still managing to deliver your services. But I think it's getting to the point where next year I don't think we'll be able to, because we also have to, as a responsibility, as part of local government, we have to deliver business support as well. It's not just these services of the adult social care and children. We also have some cultural things to do, like the libraries. But the business support is actually very important too, because who else is going to be in that space? Who else is going to be looking at the wealth, you know, building wealth on the island and making sure that we have our wages go up, that we've got better jobs, you know, higher quality jobs, and attracting people to the island. This is really important work at the council. And, you know, I'm not going to lie about this, but if we're in the same situation next week, I don't think, given the pressures, the rising pressures on children's services, adult social care, because they're going up all the time, that we're going to be able to do much in that space. And that is a great tragedy. So I think at the minute, we've still got hope. We've still got hope in this budget. And we worked really hard to make sure there was still trajectory of moving forward. As you can see in the quarter 3 performance, you can see how much work we are doing. We're being successful in getting government funding. the levelling up. I mean, that's just gone forward to planning this week actually for the over at East Cowes for the public realm element of that. You know, Branston, I think the brewery's moved in now. Building 41 opened last week, so we've got so much good stuff going on. I don't want that to get lost in this situation we're in. But you know, while I'm here, and I know you guys too, all of us involved with the council, we won't stop fighting for the island. We won't stop moving us forward because, you know, we deserve it. As an island, our residents deserve it, and we can play a part in the wealth of the country as well as the social wealth, the cultural wealth as well. We've got so much to offer. So, leader, and I tend to be going off on one now. I know I've been at a cultural conference at Southampton today. They're all really great to see us there again. We've got so much work we can do as a region as well, but we will continue on that trajectory. But there's hope left in here, and we will have a bright future.
Councillor Andre.
Thank you. I think most of what I was going to say has already been said, but what I would like to say is there are a lot of statutory requirements within children's services, which has made it incredibly difficult, because even if we wanted to cut things, which we don't, our hands are tied. Plus the fact as well that we don't know always what funding we're going to get from government. And when we do get it, often the timescales are quite short. Having said that, my team have been incredibly innovative behind the scenes in looking at ways of working, but there's only so far that we can go in stretching everything out. But I would like to put on record my thanks to Cabinet colleagues, because we have all very much worked as a collective. We are naturally very much defensive in a way and determined within our own portfolios, but we have recognised the mountain that we have to climb. And I have to be honest, I think most of us back in September, October, when we started this process, we didn't think that we would actually be in such good space, positive space now, but we do need recognition of what's to come next year. But thank you to my Cabinet colleagues for their support. We have all pulled together to get to where we are now. So thank you.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm going to follow on. Actually, that was a good lead in. Thank you. Just to say thank all my colleagues, all of us as a Cabinet for this difficult period we've been through, a long period. I'd like to thank Chris in particular, Councillor Jarman, who stuck with this under incredible pressures, held us together and delivered a budget that is hopeful under the circumstance that we had. And it's been stressful for all of us. There's been tension amongst us in our Cabinet meetings, informal, that we've had, many of them, but we've come through it and delivered a budget that's sustainable. And if we'd have hesitated, as we could have done at the beginning of this, when the numbers seemed impossible to achieve, if we'd have hesitated and eventually declared a 114 notice, this week you'll see the outcomes of that for the community that we've protected and prevented, where Croydon were granted special permission to raise their council tax by 15%. Slough followed shortly after, as far as I can gather, granted permission to raise their council tax by 10%. If we'd have hesitated, we would have been amongst those crowds of those two authorities, probably going to be joined very soon, and imposing those kinds of levels of tax increases on our community. I'm really pleased to be part of this council and this administration that's prevented that. And the stress has been worthwhile to get to that point. Where's it come from? £92 million of cuts from government. Our residents and our of this island looking at us as a council to deliver for them. That's what we try and do. We try and improve and better our services with less and less money. Now over 13 years. And the difficult decisions that we make and will be seen in our communities in some way, small way or other, are directly linked to the government of this country reducing the funding of this council. Let us make sure that we understand where these budget pressures come from. They do not come from within this council, they come from without. And far from being a wasteful, I heard a word wasteful council, and there are 39 councillors here plus all of our staff that are wasting this money apparently. Far from that, we're actually a professional, we set a professional a budget, and it's a professional and a pragmatic and a sustainable financial management of this council. That's what we've done. We haven't wasted taxpayers' money, far from it. We've done the opposite of that. And just finally on my own portfolio, some of the pressures of this driven by government are going to be seen, smiling at me, Chair, in the demand for services on our highways. It continues to rise. People want better highways. They want better cycleways. The demand is increasing and it's outstripping the funding that we have as a council. That's a result, third time, of government cutting the funding of this council. So I'm very supportive of what we've done, Chair, and thank you.
I echo everybody's thoughts and what they're saying. Particular thanks go to Chris Ward, our 151 officer, and Kerry, that have worked absolutely tirelessly. Us as a cabinet, I swear to goodness, we're still working and messaging each other at 11:30 at night, and we're still sort of on the go then at 6:30 back in the morning, where we have continuously, and it has been, Councillor Andre, you are right, it sort of was the end of September, the beginning of October, that we started this process, and it did seem impossible. We could have given our hands up, but we took on a mandate to try and help the residents of this island, and myself and the new chief exec wasn't going to give up without a fight and without everybody's resourcefulness. I'd like to move on quite quickly. I'll bring in Councillor Stevens and then we're moving on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's all been said, but what I would say is this is the first step. We've got to get this to full council. And we can't do that alone. We've got to rely on the common sense, the sense of pride in what we do within the council and on the streets of the Isle of Wight to keep assisting the residents and the businesses on the Isle of Wight. I know that we are a minority administration. Everyone knows that. Everyone, but what you've got to realise that everyone who criticises or maligns this council doesn't only hit us. It's the Councillor Brodie's and the Councillor Garrett's of this world as well, because we are Isle of Wight councillors. And unfortunately, it hits our staff. Our staff are second to none. They work like hell. And I would say that any headlines or any proposal from anyone that the Isle of Wight Council is giving up and going home. As Councillor Jordan said, we've got Thurrock, we've got Slough, we've got Croydon, and many others have gone to the wall. And I'll tell you that, you know, when you sit around and you say, okay, what have you done about housing and homelessness? In this present economic climate, go out there and see how many building sites are actually building at this moment in time, and that'll tell you. So we've got to look at the way we're going. We're doing it in the most responsible way we can. I'll take everything head on, as you know I would. But what I've got to say is that we have to be not only mindful with our budget and looking at support across the chamber people who've got a head on their shoulders who can think and actually assist us in taking this through. And it's not just for us, it's for those people out there. It's not an Isle of Wight council, oh, we puff our chest out and say we've got a budget through. It's for the people out on the street who are feeling the pinch. Poverty, fuel costs, cost of groceries, petrol, you name it, and being laid off at this time of the year. And now we've got to take things forward and try and promote a positive budget. And I'm just saying, okay, we are a minority administration. Now, when this comes down to actually going into full council, and we hear this, that, and the other from everyone else who want to make the statement, quite rightly too, because they've all played a part. They've all played a part in being a part of this council. What I want to see is, okay, it's the best we can do under the circumstances. Might be a tweak, might not. But I'll tell you what, we've worked hard. We've tweaked bits here and there to actually get this through in the most acceptable way we can. I think that's it. We will have people that will ridicule us. They will criticise us. But I'll tell you what, if they sat in the Isle of Wight Council officers as we've had to, they would not come up with anything better than what we've come up with, for sure. We've tried our damn best. Let's get this through into full council and let's move it on. Thank you very much, Leader. I shall be voting for.
Okay, so Councillor Garrett put his hand up first, then Councillor Brodie.
Thank you, Chair. My apologies that I'll have to leave pretty soon after this. But the key question here is, for me, is that whilst the Cabinet may ratify this tonight and send it to full council, that if other groups do bring things forwards, that you listen to what we're saying very carefully. So grateful to Councillor Jarman for the time I've had with him discussing the budget, to Mr. Ward and Ms. Hubbarday for the same. I think there is at least one area in the capital programme that needs careful scrutiny, and that's the expenditure on a heading which is rather coarsely put as laptops, etc. I'm a little concerned about the sum of money being spent there in terms of the specification of machines that might be procured. Are they over-specified for the need over a 4-year life cycle? I'm taking some advice on that as well to just back me up on that. And also on the sheer numbers of mobile phones that seem to be needing to be replaced. Are those going to be over-specified? Or actually, there are a lot of very cheap mobile phones on the market that would serve the needs of communication, but are not necessarily things that are needed that most of us have, which could pretty much pilot a craft to the moon and back. So we don't need NASA level IT necessarily. We need the right IT for the right people. So I'd urge you to look at that. I am concerned. I saw that the leader had written yourself, Leader, that you were not making cuts to the library service, but there is a cut to the library service in the book fund. So I hope that if an amendment comes to reverse that you'll be open to that. But finally, I would say two things. One, it is urgent, imperative that the corporate plan is reviewed, because the world situation, the island situation, the national situation has changed enormously. And whilst I understand the process might, as Councillor Jarman indicated, start in October, it's really, really important to bring indicative savings out into the open earlier than they usually do, because nobody likes shocks and nobody likes surprises and nobody likes rows in the media, which could have been settled through much more extensive and open and transparent debate. And I use these words, open and transparent, because they are a significant theme of the Alliance Group's current corporate plan. Look forward to the debate, and I have every sympathy with the Cabinet and what you have done to deal with what is actually a grotesque underfunding of local government, not just this year, but many years back, and potentially, hopefully, for not much longer, because in the short time, there will be a general election. Thank you, Chair, and my apologies that I'll have to leave now to go to work.
I have to leave too. Councillor Brodie, so Councillor Ian Stevens will be taking over. Thank you.
Just before
Councillor Garrett leaves, I would just remind him that he's a member of a political party that initiated all of the cuts and austerity of the last 13 years when they were part of the coalition with the current Conservatives. No, let's never forget that, and too often he does that. Just to move on, I do have one specific question, but Andrew was allowed to make comments. I intend to make a few comments as well, so the vast majority of them will be made at full council. I would say to you, Councillor Stevens, you say nobody could come up with a better budget. I entirely disagree. I entirely disagree. And if this administration had ever taken the trouble of speaking to me at any point in the last 4 months, they might have had some suggestions as to how there could be improvements. But not one member of the Cabinet approached me before the Cabinet paper was released last Wednesday. That was the first time I had sight of it. There is no doubt that you're facing immense difficulties, but there are alternatives. Budget settings is about priorities. It's about political priorities, non-political priorities. I have different priorities in so many areas. And Councillor Garrett did allude to the fact that spending £3.5 million on IT is obscene at a time when people are facing a serious cost of living crisis in this country. The amount of money you're planning to spend on laptops, 1.6 million. 1.6 million represents 2% increase in the council tax for the hard-pressed residents that I represent in Pan and Barton. And I'm sure in your ward as well, Councillor Stephen. You need to, frankly, it's your portfolio, and I think you've gone crazy with some of the proposals in the capital programme for IT in this council. On Tuesday, provided the Section 151 officer allows me to submit an amendment from me will be published. Of course, everybody knows the Section 151 officer of every local authority actually rules the budget. You all know that as Cabinet members. It's all down to the Section 151 officer. There is little democracy among councillors anymore in local government. Certainly not from when I first became a councillor, or indeed when I first started working in local government back in 1979. This is Thatcher's day. Just the one question I actually have is, I was quite surprised that at the beginning of the meeting, public question time, we didn't have any trade union representation here to ask a question, because there is allusion to staff cuts on a regular basis throughout the indicative savings, but there are no figures whatsoever. Can somebody on this cabinet, the leaders decided to clear up when I ask a question, but can somebody, perhaps you, Councillor Stephen, tell me how many staff do you expect to lose as a result of this budget? Nothing has been said about that. And as you know, this is an important employer on the Isle of Wight. And if you're going to regenerate the Isle of Wight economy, getting rid of staff at County Hall is going to have a significant effect. I look forward to your reply. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brodie. And you and I both know that getting rid of staff, or actually, trying to move some transformational change to different things. Getting rid of staff is cutting staff. No one wants to cut staff, but what people would like to do is to right-size the organisation for the current situation. And quite rightly, when Councillor Garrett said that we should be looking at our corporate plan again, we will be doing that. And no doubt, in all honesty, Councillor Brodie, I'm only too pleased to meet with you and talk. You know that as well as the next person. I've got no problem in talking or discussing about budget, or indeed anything else, including the laptops and other things that you disagree with. I can take it outside of this medium and move it on somewhere else, and I think that's the best way. But it's very, very difficult to actually say, okay, you're going to cut staff. No, we have people that are moving on, so it'll be done if we are going to right size and we happen to drop in staff numbers, then that will be done in the most tasteful way possible, with care and consideration, and looking at it, what's termed natural wastage, which is people who wish to move on elsewhere will do that, and people who want to retire We'll do that as well. And we will recruit as well, because it's not a question of opening the door and getting rid of people. It's actually, as I've said 3 times now, this is the 3rd time, right sizing the organisation for the current situation and making sure that we are adapting to what we need in the future to take this council to another level. I don't want to see us sinking down, and neither do you, Councillor Brodie, you know that. What we need to do is actually raise our game, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to be raising the game under difficult circumstances. Hopefully, transformational change will assist us in, as I say, taking things forward. And I'll bring in Councillor Jarman, who obviously wishes to speak on this. It's not a simple question, and there's no simple answer. Well, it is a simple question. Just Councillor Brodie, look, you've asked for a number. That's the simple bit. Providing the number on where we're going with transformational change and taking things forward is a little bit more, how can we say, difficult, because at this moment in time, we're starting to formulate where we want to go and where we want to be. And that's over time is going to look at certain services and areas to be considered. And that will then also cause the situation to drop into the number. So I can't give you a number at the time. I'll bring in Councillor Jarman.
So there isn't actually a number of people. There is a process which the Chief Executive is very aware of, which will be followed, which is about organisational redesign. The value that will be saved through that process, which is perhaps the best way to look at it, equates to £1.2 million.
Thank you, Councillor Jarman. Where are we with this? Okay, should we go to the vote then? I've got all of them.
I formally propose that we set this paper forward. It goes to full council as the next step on the line. We are aware that there are some changes that were made very latent, and just to amplify those a little bit, one of which is the raising of our minimum risk level to 8 million from 7. There was some discussion about that being a much higher figure, given the risks that we face going forwards. But I think the paper has had sufficient debate and discussion on it. That debate will continue over the next week or so. And I move that we push this paper forward now to the full council with the endorsement of Cabinet, and look for a seconder to that motion. Right. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right. Moving on, agenda item 9.
We need to vote.
Oh, sorry, did we take? I thought we'd had to vote. Oh, to the vote then, please. Sorry. Seems like getting very keen. Fine. Cabinet member announcements. I'm going to go around the room. I'll start Councillor Lucioni. Oh, I've got one.
Going flat. Oh,
I'll back on.
There's too many up. Do you want to do? I will share ours. Share this one. Is it working? Yeah. So I just wanted to draw the attention of the visit we did to the waste plant at Forest Road, which was brilliant. And I want to thank all the staff there that made us feel very welcome and gave us a brilliant visit there. So, but my point from that really is that I was really surprised about the amount of other things that are put in recycling, which have to be pulled out by hand. And I was showing helium bottles, propane cans, quilt covers, cushions, all sorts of things. So I'm just hoping that somebody's listening here that can report this, or could you let your residents know? please keep recycling for recycling. Textiles go out on the curbside with your recycling on the recycling week, and they will be disposed of in the correct manner. And also we're looking into these disposable vapes that people will now have. They can't go in the general waste, and they can't go in recycling because they have batteries in them, and they will probably cause a problem at the waste plant. So until we get an answer on how we're going to dispose of them, can you please either take them to the tip or keep them? What I've been doing with one of my clients is just keeping them to the side, and then we'll tell you where you need to put them out with your rubbish so that they're safe. Thank you.
That's the vape, so that people. I'm looking round to see who else wishes to speak. Okay, Councillor Jones Evans.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair. I thought you were going round the table. Oh, then I defer to the Ls and then we'll go down to the Js.
Sorry, thank you. And it's fine. I will have waited my turn. I just wanted to just mention that there is quite a lot of noise and concern out there in the community at the moment about the NHS Trust and the merger with the Portsmouth teams. We are looking to clarify that and to get more information. And the way to do that is through our corporate scrutiny. That appears to be the right and proper way to do that. I am concerned. I am listening to what people are saying about it, and Health Watch are a statutory consultee in that, and I believe that we should have had more consultation about it per se for the island, so that you carry the people of the island along with that. But I just wanted to acknowledge that here, that we are looking at that, and that I encourage the corporate scrutiny to dig deeper.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jordan, anything? Moving on. Councillor Jones Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things.
So that's not to say that I'm not very busy. My portfolio. Just there's no new news. It's the same old drudging highways.
Just between you and me, Councillor Jordan, and no one else can hear us at this moment. I think you said enough tonight anyway, thanks. Councillor Jones.
Of course, the same can't be said of me, Chair. So just want to say thanks to everybody who made Building 41 happen, and thank you for all the support I got across the council who were able to come for the opening last week. It was really fantastic. I think it was about 120 people came, and I think they were really impressed with what they saw there. You know, we've got really modern, sustainable, just pretty cool actually place there, you know, where people can set their businesses up or just come and co-work there. We've got offices. They've actually had, you know, even just since last week, we've had another 3 have been let. So obviously it did work really well. So we've got businesses setting themselves up there. And you know, if you're fed up of working out, you know, from home, come and co-work in a hot desk. In fact, we've got an offer at the moment. You get a free month, see if you like it or not. And that includes the coffee, which is amazing. So yeah, if you want to get in contact, we've got a website for Building 41, so have a look at that. Then I've also got another offer for you from One Leisure. So we've got a contract offer which you'll hear about on Monday when the press release goes out. So you're going to get a free month of that as well if you want to take up on the contract. So you get your 1 card, but you get like an extra month out of it as well. So if you're in the mood to get yourself a bit more fit and healthy, or just meet other people, because it's a very social activity as well as being healthy for you physically. Be quiet. But another, so just to also say, we've appointed 2 area region officers from the Shared Prosperity Fund. They've started work now, so that means we can do a bit more intensive work across the island. Ryde and the new Bay area will be the place plan that we're looking to appoint there very soon for the people that are going to be doing actually producing the place plan itself with the 3 town and parish councils. That's Lake, Shanklin and Sandowns. That's would be quite exciting. So as ever, I could say more, but I think probably I've said enough tonight. Deputy Leader. So I'll hand over to my friend, Councillor Jarman.
No, nothing to add. My focus is entirely on the budget at the moment, and the next week that will change.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Fuller.
Lots going on with planning, but not until after the budget. So thank you.
Splendid. Very big. Councillor Bacon.
Like councillors Fuller and Jordan, very busy, but nothing I would need to trouble you with this evening.
Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Also, there's, as you can see from the forward plan that we're coming to next, there is a lot of work going on in my portfolio behind the scenes, but I would like to just highlight 3 items. I'm absolutely delighted because it's something that is incredibly close to my heart. Accessibility and being an inclusive island. And I've been working with Mr. Ashman and a wide team. And we've got the culmination of this is the first, which we hope it will be the first in a series of an inclusive island conference, which is taking place next Thursday, the 16th. And the focus of this is that we want to make sure that everyone who wants to work can do so, but also those who visit have the best possible experience. And that's our key objectives for promoting people-based regeneration on the island. And the event specifically seeks to share best practice in accessibility for employment and the visitor economy. And we can't ignore the Purple Pound is absolutely massive. And it's a launch a call to action to make the Isle of Wight the most inclusive island in the coming months and year. And this is just to kickstart this awareness of accessibility for all and making us an inclusive island. We've developed a logo, and we've actually found out we don't think there's actually a point mark as such. So there's work going on, lots of work going on behind the scenes for that. The second thing I'd like to bring to your attention is that I was delighted to meet up with the Yarmouth Town Council Working Party on the former Yarmouth School site with Councillor Jarman there. And we met with them and with an officer to walk around the site and just to meet with them and to open that ongoing conversation about the potential future of that site. And I'd like to finish with hot off the press. The Isle of Wight Council has today received notification from the Department for Education that we will be one of 14 pathfinders to deliver the government's new family hubs with up to £1 million in ring-fence funding to follow. So hopefully that will bring a bit of a smile, especially to Councillor Jarman's face. Thank you, Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Andre. We're going to move on then to consideration of the forward plan, item 10 on the agenda, page 309. So I'm not going to go through this item by item, page by page. You've all had an opportunity to see the forward plan, read the forward plan and consider it. I'm looking for anything that's an acceptance.
Just there's one new item on there from me regarding the Isle of Wight cultural strategy. We'll be looking at it in June, but just to say please everyone look out for the consultations that are going on at the moment right across the island. You can look on the Island Collection website, but I'll also be putting out on my own message, my own social media as well. But yeah, they're going. So we're halfway through the process now of producing the strategy, which will be, we come to the Isle of Wight Council, as you can see, in June, but it's actually going to be sort of owned by the whole of the island.
Anyone else? No, well, I'll, as you might gather, I'm going to say something. So I'm going to bring you to page 5 of the forward plan, approval of the statement of intent for Eco 4. It is what it says on the page. I will be signing the delegated decision to take that forward. And once again, that's good work by 2 officers in different departments who actually work together on this, bring it forward. So that's, how can I say, good cohesive working. Anything else on the forward plan before I move on? Not hanging about, we'll move on. Thank you. Item 10, is it? Item 11, I'm always one step behind. Thank you. Item 11, members' question time. Councillor Andre.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Yes, just to confirm that we received a question to the Leader from Councillor Michael Lilly. And the question reads as follows. In the light of the Joseph Rowntree Foundation's latest report, which was attached, on poverty in the UK in 2023, and the 2019 Isle of Wight Council commitment to reduce child poverty in 5 years, what is the current child poverty figure? According to the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, it is between 20 to 25% on the Isle of Wight, and has it reduced? Although in the light of a reduction in child poverty is unlikely, or remains in the range of 20 to 30% due to COVID-19 and the now cost of living crisis, please can the Cabinet reaffirm its commitment to reduce child poverty on the Isle of Wight in the next 5 years, and set a specific target and outline a specific strategy to tackle child poverty and food insecurity on the Isle of Wight, with reference to the JFP report and recommendations. My response is as follows. Thank you for highlighting this important issue. Free school meal eligibility is often used as a good indicator for child poverty, and the numbers of children eligible for income-related free school meals has increased by 63% since 2018-19, from 2,452 in autumn 2018-19 to 4,008 in autumn 22-23. Our corporate plan will continue to focus on taking actions to mitigate the impact of the pandemic and cost of living crisis wherever we can. Funding from the Department of Work and Pensions for food and fuel support and Department for Education for the holiday activities and food schemes have been used to tackle child poverty and food insecurity under our Connect for Communities programme. Through these schemes, vulnerable families have received support, including free school meal vouchers during the holidays, discretionary funding available to schools for supporting families to pay for fuel bills and providing warm bedding and clothing. Over 18,000 individual awards were made to households with children between April 2021 to September 2021. Activity schemes over the Christmas, Easter and summer holidays for children in receipt of benefits-related free school meals and with special educational needs and disabilities are also running, which include a hot meal. Nearly 900 children access this provision during the Christmas holidays. In addition, 3 community pantries have been established on the island, supported by the Connect for Communities programme, providing food at a reduced rate for a small membership fee and open to all. A 4th pantry is due to open at Easter this year. In taking decisions around preparing this year's budget, we have sought to prioritise the protection of our most vulnerable residents, and in particular, our children and young people, and will continue to support children through our Connect for Communities programme. We will continue to work hard to ensure that future money, both from the DWP and the DFE, continue to be targeted to our most vulnerable island children. I can therefore reaffirm our commitment to tackling child poverty and can confirm that as part of our all-age work across the Council on poverty reduction. Finally, as the Cabinet member responsible for this area of work, I would like to personally thank all the providers who are part of our holiday activities and food scheme, those who run the community pantries, and the staff who work hard to allocate the Connect for Communities funding amidst very tight timescales. There is additional background information and the full written response will be sent to Councillor Lilly. Thank you, Deputy Leader.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Andre. Any other questions from members? Anyone want to question me? Thanks. Okay, without further ado, then we're going to call that it. Meeting closed. I won't use the gavel. Thank you. Safe journey home and keep warm. Thank you.